Hello and welcome back to this video. It's the TS-54. I've been meaning to do it for a while. I finally got around to it. Seeing as it's now released, I thought, instead of just making the video, I'll get you some gameplay to go with it. So, yeah, let's get right into it. Basically, to get this tank, you have to get World of Tanks Plus. You know, subscription service, monthly, rerolls every 30 days. It's about £7 in the UK, about €850, I believe. And I'm not going to tell you whether it's worth it. That's up to you on how you spend your money. But I'm just going to tell you about the tank to let you make the most informed decision as to whether it's worth it, in your opinion. Right. We've got a map on Halluf, full tier 8s. You know, pretty good matchup, apart from the fact I'm facing 3 Skodas. And this tank at tier 8 is a bit of an enigma. It has a lot of DPM for a double barrel. When you compare that to the 703, the IS-22, they don't really have the DPM. This is the enigma because it's a double barrel and it has DPM. So as you're going to see in this game, I chose this game because it has the best showcase of this tank's DPM. So, early game, we decided we're just going to head up to the normal heavy flank, really. We're just going to go take the balcony, and we're going to try and just punish the cross. And I've got, a couple of shots here on the EBR, and unfortunately I kind of get a little bit robbed a couple of times here. And it's a nice thing. This tank reloads in like 6.7 seconds for each shell. So you can fire one, reload, and you're pretty much, by the time you've re-aimed at something, you're ready to fire again. That tank is just really nice for that. So, a little bit into the stats. I spoke about this tank's good DPM. It has 2.5k DPM for a tier 8 heavy. That's good. It's on the top end, and you can't complain with that. And 280 alpha, which is the interesting thing I find about this tank the most, is its alpha. It feels very medium-like. And when you compare this tank's alpha to some of the medium tanks we've had recently, you're having to go really quite far back to be able to find a tank that's been released with less than 300 alpha at tier rate in any kind of form, really. So it's interesting, but it's probably the balancing factor about this tank. I think if they gave this tank 320 alpha, you'd be looking at 3k DPM, and then you're pushing insane values. But as you can see here, when you combine the alpha with this tank's good gun handling, mediocre speed, you kind of got a platform which does allow for you to farm damage. It has 8 degrees of gun depression, as you can see, which is a little bit limiting at times. But you see, it's that double-barreled nature which allows you to be able to pick up a kill there on the Skoda after putting a shot into the AMBT. And, it's this tank's 8-pounder. It is brilliant at tracking, and you're going to see me put it to use, especially firing frontally through the tracks and causing damage. This tank is just brilliant at that. So far, we've managed to basically pick up a kill on the Skoda. We've managed to put some punish into the TS-54. We pushed up on the other Skoda. And we managed to just put a little bit of punish into the AMB2 who was over peaking. And now this is where you can see this tank's DPM finally start to work. You've got a TS-54 pushing in, and we're like, I might as well just farm you. And you can see here, the tank's gun handling is really good. 1.89 seconds aim time, 0.33 dispersion. And I must put a caveat, this is with it maxed out. This is with pretty much a maxed out crew and using bond equipment, bounty equipment. This is with it basically all tricked out, all singing, all dancing. You see here, this tank does have weak points. And I will point that out. This tank is not impenetrable. It is, in my opinion, one of the most balanced tanks they've brought in at tier 8 in a very long time. Its balancing factors, as I mentioned, are its alpha. It's relatively slow, but it's not particularly slow. It goes 45 forwards. That's like, it's quicker than a defender, but it's not pushing like, I don't really know, Skoda speed kind of, It's quick, but not too quick. Oh, and also this tank's balancing factor is its pen. It has terrible pen. Its standard AP pen is 218. Just don't use it. There's no point in firing 218 pen at tier 8. You're going to struggle to pen some tier 7s with that kind of pen. Its gold pen is 252. APCR, 1000, shell velocity. It's okay. But it's like kinda IS6-ish. Which is really not great. So my advice, just take full gold. Call me a gold spammer or whatever. Just take full gold. You're going to find yourself doing a lot better just firing that gold. The shell velocity and the slightly better pen. 252, you're going to struggle to pen some weak points of tier 9s and some weak points of tier 10s, you know? But it can work when you're fighting tier 8s, especially if you know where to aim. And this tank does have the gun handling to allow you to aim for those weak points. As you saw me there, you know, aiming at the TS-54 weak point, aiming for tracks on the move, it's good at that. You see here, the DPM of this tank has allowed me to pick up 4.3k in, what, a 5-minute game already? In a tank with 280 alpha? That's pretty good. You can't really complain with that. That's, yeah, really pushing it. And, you know, yes, I did, you know, have a couple of paid actors, TS-54 pushing in, Skoda over peaking, another Skoda over peaking, but, you know, you have to have the DPM to be able to punish them when they peak, and this tank does have that, and that's the nice thing about it, is it just has that ability to fire one, reload, fire one, reload. You can almost play this tank cyclically. You don't really ever have to fire two. I mean, it's nice, because you can really, really punish for 520, but you can fire one, and you can just keep that second shot for a pressure situation, or you need to pick up a kill. Now, you'll see this here, this situation here is a prime example, I find, of how you can play this tank in terms of how to use its 2 showers. You know, here I've pushed into, basically put a shot into the Shipperdeck, and I've kind of realised, oh, I've put myself in a crossfire here. This was a bit of a misplay by me. I was vaguely distracted. I was playing this on stream. I think I was reading chat at the time. I realised I've just pushed into a crossfire between Charioteer, Shipperdeck, and a Scorpion, sorry, who's up at the top. So I was like, So I basically just back off, and, you know, I fire one here into the Charioteer, you know, put him down to a 1-shot, and I'm like, is the Shipperdeck going to push in? I'm like, maybe. So I pick up the kill here, and you see here, I fired just before my second shot reloaded, but that's fine, because I've still got the DPM to reload here, and this is a terrible shot for me, just completely ignore that, but I'm like, it's fine, I can come and face hug him, and this tank's armor, when, you know, you're face hugging something firing AP, like the Shipperdeck is, you're going to bounce. It has good enough armor. Like, let me quickly just pause it and kind of show you the weak points of this tank. So you have 2 little, like, viewpoints, like, either side, like, here. These are weak points. If you aim for, like, here, you're going to pan. It also has, like, a polar on the left-hand side, which is kind of its, like, weak point. But the 2 easier ones to hit are here and here, just where they connect to the turret. Aim there, you will pan. They've got 200 armor, easy pan. If you're a tier 10 medium and you've got 300 heat pan, aim here. This whole bar here, you will pan. Especially if you're above this tank, you can overmatch its roof quite nicely. So that's my advice, is if you've got 300 heat pan, you know, even like the 122 TM, so some tier 8s do have that kind of pan to be able to push it. Aim for that bar, because it's basically 300mm. So all you need to do is roll even on the pan and you will pan. So if you're in a clutch situation where you can't quite see its 2 kind of like ears, aim for its kind of eyebrow. That's basically the rule with this tank. And you will pen it 9 times out of 10. Its armor is not incredible. And this is where you can see that alpha. 280 alpha just, it struggles to kill tanks. But if you have that second shot, you can pick up the kills. So this video, kind of like this game here, I'm going to show you another game now, which kind of highlights what this tank can do in a tier 6 matchup. It's pretty insane. But this match I found showed its DPM, its gun handling, and basically what you can do, you can push the tempo in this tank. It's one of those tanks like the Skoda with this 2 shells, which allows you to push the tempo and really punish players. So let's move on into the next one, and I'll see you there. All right, welcome back. This video, you know, we're on Overlord. I can never remember what this map's called. It's the D-Day one, basically. And we're in a tier 6 matchmaking. This tank is dreamy for tier 6. It has tier 6 alpha? There's some tier 6s which have better alpha than this tank. So when you put it in a tier 6 game, it has tier 8 DPM, tier 8 armor, but tier 6 kind of alpha. It's odd. But when you put it in this kind of matchmaking, it just shreds. You know, that pen just doesn't become an issue. 252 pen is going to punch through tier 7s and tier 6s, to be honest. You know, there's a couple of tier 7 heavies, which I can think of off the top of my head. Like some of the Italian heavies, where you might struggle, but if you just know where to aim, you're going to pen them. So, yeah. I chose this game because it kind of shows what you can do when you get into a tier 6 game, and kind of shows what you can do if you're aware. So we've got a Type 58 pushing up here. I aim for the tracks. I don't track him. Unfortunately, that's the thing you get with low alpha. If they're running hardening, you're probably not going to get a one-shot track. But if they're not, you can. And you see here, he's not running hardening, so I can pick up the track on him. I'm like, I can just literally sit here, and I have enough DPM with that shot to be able to reload too. I snatched that shot. That was a misplay by me. But I got 600 tracking, so it's kind of meh. And you can see here, I'm going to try and pick up a shot onto this Type 58 track. So have got to be careful here. There is a Yuda as an enemy team who could be, you know, sat at the back. And that's just the Yak Tiger sat there instead, actually. Sorry, the Yak Panther, not Tiger. And as you can see, this tank just... It just works. It's balanced. But I think in that... It's one of those tanks where if you put it in the hands of a really good player, they're really going to make it work. If you put it in the hands of an average player, they're going to do good. It's one of those kind of tanks. It's good, but it's balanced. And bad players can have good games in it. Good players can have bad games in it. It's kind of one of those kind of enigmas. You just have to be in the right place, right time to allow the DPM to work. And this is where those two shots is absolutely gorgeous. You know, I managed to pick up a tracking shot on the Lancer in the open, and I'm like, well, why wait to reload when he could repair and run away? Just kill him. That 520 potential is so nice when you're playing against lower tiers. Because you've got to look. I've got 520 in a double. You know, if I was to double the Yak Panther, I'd leave him a one-shot. If I was to double the Biss, I leave him basically as a one-shot. This alpha just works. So, you know, you can see here, I've basically seen the TS-54 on the enemy team is pushed up, and I'm like, I've got to try and eliminate that. He's basically my competition, you know. Same tier. I'm like, I'm just going to go and try and pick up the kill on him. So I'm basically just pushing forward into this nice little spot here. And unfortunately, I do take an RHM shot here for this. But I'm like, whatever. You know, I'll be able to put 2 into this TS-54. And I'm like, I'll just use my second shot here because I don't want him to turn around. Because you do have good gun elevation in this tank. So he could have shot me. So I was like, you know what, I'll just put a second shot into him. Because I have enough time here. You know, it's only 13.4 seconds to be able to reload both shells. I have enough time here to be able to reload both before I have to go peek the RHM. And unfortunately, I once again fire before I reload the second shot, but whatever. I'm still getting used to playing double barrels. It's been a long time since I've played them. So timing, and also the sound of the shell reloading, I've got to get used to that. But that's just me coping. And an unlucky shot there kind of went over his kind of mantlet, but it's fine. But yeah, this tank just really works at tier 6, and I hope this kind of replay kind of shows that to you, you know. This tank has okay view range, as you're going to kind of see. You know, that hits my weak point absolutely perfectly right there. That's a prime example of where you hit this tank. Exactly there, and you will pen it. He rolls pretty high. He's got a 490 alpha gun. He's rolled me for 495 and 502 so far, but it's fine. All I just have to do is not get penned by him again, because he can roll me and kill me. See here, I'm making a bit of a mistake. I'm kind of tunnel vision on this RHM here when I could turn around and shoot the 45 TP, who is literally just kind of pushing my team. I could literally just turn around, go back to here, and double this guy or cyclically fire onto this guy, and it's 3 damage right there. So that's a misplay by me, but it's fine. It's one of those things you notice often when it's a little bit too late. You see here, this tank's just highlight of his tank's gun handling. It just goes where you aim it. It just feels so nice, so rewarding for awareness. You know, if you see a tank and you can take a snapshot, take it in this tank, because I feel half of the time, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hit it. It just kind of works, you know. That's what happens when you've got 0.33 dispersion, 1.89 seconds aim time, you know. It's just going to work. But the odd thing I find about this tank, if you're used to playing double barrels, it has quite an odd kind of shell change. So once you fired one, you have 2.5 seconds to basically fire the other, which is odd because it has 6 seconds overall. So basically you're spending half the time which it takes to reload that second shell, so to reload that first shell, to fire the second shell. So it's kind of a little bit odd. It's something you kind of have to get a little bit used to. Once you've played 4, 5, 6 games, you know, you kind of get into the groove with it. And it is kind of quite nice. It's definitely, you know, it's not going to affect how you play this tank. As you can see here, its tank's armor, you kind of over-angle its frontal armor, and you can basically bounce some really nice shots. And you see, I'm just going to go and look up a nice little ram on this guy. This tank's pretty heavy, you know. It picks up speed, especially downhill. So, a nice little ram kill there. And you see here, this game's already over, and I've picked up 4.3k in 5 minutes again. This was 2 games in a row, by the way. These games were both played on stream 2 games in a row. And, I don't get anything else out of this game, so I will just pause it here. But these were 2 games in a row. I played this tank on stream on Thursday night. I think 5, 6 games, and I got like 4 aces. The Rex were kind of a bit screwed up because it was like second day out. But, this tank feels like it has a bit of like a base XP multiplier, but it doesn't. It just kind of 1300 XP is kind of quite nice. So if you're looking for a tank to maybe start, working on those 279E ace tank missions, here's a potential. But talking quickly, just touch over the free mark requirements. This tank's requirements have now kind of evened out. It's looking kind of about 3k to 3.1, kind of similar to the Iron Arnie kind of requirements which came out in the Christmas boxes. It feels a little bit like the Iron Arnie in terms of its armor. Its armor works against low tier and against people who don't really know where to aim. But if they know where to aim, the armor doesn't work. So don't rely on its armor. Just assume they're going to pen your weak points and do everything you can to avoid it. So drive diagonally, wiggle your turret. But yeah, other than that, that's me done. I'm going to talk about the equipment that I recommend for this tank, the 2 equipment setups and the field mods just after this. So yeah, thanks for watching. I shall see you all soon. Bye.